Alrighty. I think we are officially out there streaming everywhere. Welcome back to another edition of the wild, wacky, whatever the hell strip mall Steve show this is. There's no real theming for the Tuesday show yet. Might do a hot topic thing, just dig into one meaty, juicy topic every Tuesday there. So it may be a hot topic thing. What's up there, Daniel? Thanks for jumping in the chat already. Which, by the way, jump into the chat. The chat is a ton of fun here. It helps me out. This is a solo broadcasting endeavor, so anytime I can get a little help in the chat there, certainly helps me out. Well, today's presentation is going to be a little bit different because I'm coming to you really from a very sad place because a bit of news broke over the weekend about an incident, terrible incident that occurred sometime last week. So how I'd like to start is by covering this important piece of news, then figuring out how we're going to stop this kind of thing from ever happening again. Because frankly, I'm outraged. I'm absolutely devastated at the news that I'm about to deliver and report here. It's shook me to my core, frankly. I'm scared to leave the home. I'm scared to travel. I'm scared to do absolutely anything because I feel like I might personally be under attack. I'm also worried about the members of the hit show, been off the air for several years, entitled Boardwalk Empire. How's it going, Texas Carter and Tommy G? Love you, cats. Thanks for joining in here. What we're going to start with, apparently, Boardwalk Empire star Steve Buscemi punched by a maniac in a random New York City attack. So, apparently, it seems no one is safe on the streets of the Big Apple these days, not even beloved hometown actor and Brooklyn native Steve Buscemi. That's the thing. Dude's from Brooklyn. Dude's from New York City. Can't even feel safe in his own town here. What happened here? This dude, Buscemi, 66 years old, mind you. You're seeing this screen share there. 66 will come into play. He's a 66-year-old man, this Steve Buscemi gentleman. He's no spring chicken anymore. He needs protection. Anyway, he was strolling through Kips Bay, which I guess is an area of New York. I'm not too familiar with their boroughs. I don't know if that's like Highland Park and it's a good area, or I don't know if it's a more downtrodden area or something where you shouldn't be hanging out late at night, like some seedier areas of Deep Ellum or something. I don't know. But middle of the day, he's strolling through Kips Bay when what's defined as a brute walked up and struck the Boardwalk Empire star in broad daylight. Yes, broad daylight attack. And from what I've seen of different reports of this, it seems like the dude might have been talking to himself beforehand. But I will say, by talking to himself, based on the photos that they've released of this gentleman, doesn't look to be an extremely menacing dude that you would feel alarmed by just walking down the street. Looks like a jogger. Looks like a dude just out jogging or dude walking around. So yeah, as Daniel Escobar mentioned here, this did happen to Rick Moranis, as we'll keep reporting. It's happened to many other people in New York City. So apparently Buscemi, yeah, like I said, unprovoked attack. So he's just standing there. I don't think he was looking down at his phone or anything like that, but he did get knocked down. He gets clocked in the face by this dude. He gets knocked down. Somebody who saw the entire attack happen, like a shop owner right there, said it looked like he just had no idea what had happened. He kind of turned around to look at this brute man who inflicted this pain here. And I think the guy who laid the punch on him said something. He turned around and said something to Steve Buscemi. I don't know if it was something personal. It seems to be unprovoked and unrelated to anything previously. But this was just a dude walking down the street who decided to punch another human. We don't know at this moment if he knew it was Steve Buscemi or if he's just into randomly punching people. So that's what I'm left to ponder. Are the streets of any city safe now if your name is Steve? Because I don't know if it's a targeted Steve hitting, if it's a targeted nerd hitting, like Escobar mentioned there. Maybe this guy loops Rick Moranis and Buscemi into the same kind of nerd bucket. I don't think they should. I mean, sure, Buscemi has glasses every now and then, but I don't see either one of them as full on nerd material just because Moranis had to play that Honey, I Shrunk the Kids guy. I don't think that makes him full on nerd. Same thing with Little Giants. I think he ended up putting together a pretty good game plan there. I don't know about nerd. Anyway, we read on. So, he's not the only. So his publicist said, yeah, he's okay and all that stuff. But yeah, it trips and falls backwards. So yeah, NYPD released surveillance photos of the attacker. Like I mentioned, dude just kind of looks like a jogger. Got a black baseball cap, blue kind of like like workout shirt, like an Under Armour shirt. I don't know what those things are called. Is it spandex? Is it something else? I don't know. Compression shirts. What are compression shirts made out of? Is the material called compression or is it still span? What were bike shorts? Were we supposed to want to wear bike shorts? Or were they just in there to make everything snugger for some reason that I'm unaware of? It never appealed to me. I've also only biked around the house on like a stationary bike, so maybe I never needed that kind of I don't know, snugness that seemed to be provided by the bike short. I seem to recall that being a thing back in the day. I don't know what people were doing. But anyway, this guy, yeah, just looks like he's going to work out. He's got a backpack on his back. But basically, what I mean is like he doesn't look like a homeless guy. He doesn't look like Steve Buscemi and Big Daddy. You know,
I mean, if you don't like spaghetti and meatballs, why don't you get the hell out?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't look like that. He doesn't look like he's just out there looking for a sausage McMuffin. And sorry, I didn't pull that particular audio yet, and it had some music underneath it anyway. But the weird part about this is this has happened to another actor from Boardwalk Empire. So apparently, last week's unprovoked attack makes him the second actor from the popular Boardwalk Empire series to fall victim to a random New York City street attack this year. That's right. I think conspiracy is all afoot. Fade out now. Fade. Work on my faders on some of these. So I definitely think there's some kind of Boardwalk Empire conspiracy, or at the very least, a Steve conspiracy, because I feel like he's not going to be the only Steve. I think even though he's the only Steve so far, he's not going to be the only one. So let me go back to the Boardwalk Empire. On March 31st, apparently actor Michael Stubarg, who played gangster Arnold Rothstein on the show, was out for a run. Out for a run on the Upper East Side when he was struck in the back of the neck with a rock. Shouldn't be throwing rocks. Throwing rocks is dangerous. Even throwing gravel is dangerous, but a big rock can get away from you. So what's on the ground stays on the ground. That's what I got to tell the kids out there. The big rocks, they can get away from you. I know that. They get caught in the wind. Gravel, already a big enough. All right. So in this one, though, the New York PD arrested a deranged vagrant. And it was a 27-year-old dude. And that one took place around 7:45 at night. So that guy, at least they got him. And I think the dude, the actor, yeah, he chased after the guy who hit him. And he ended up running into police stationed outside the Russian consulate. So I don't have anything near that exciting happening to me in my life where I'm getting hit in the back of the head with a rock, then chasing an attacker into the hands of police waiting at the Russian consulate. Just not in the cards for me. You know, I need to live a more exciting life, I think. Anyway, what this all brings me to, oh yes, by the way, the former Emmy Award winner, Steve Buscemi, was one of New York's bravest in the 1980s. He was an actual firefighter before he was an actor. Firefighter. I think from like 1980 to 1984, he worked at fire station number 55 or something like that. And he was taking acting classes, and then his career popped. So, hey, from then on, all right, I'm Steve Buscemi, and I'll get character work. And you might know him. He's got weird teeth, and I respect that about him. He told people, you're not going to fix my teeth. Fix my teeth, I'll lose all my work. So, good for him. But either way, he's a national. Whether it's, I mean, good Lord. Good Lord. Billy Madison, Big Daddy. I love all the Adam Sandler stuff he does. Obviously, he's a great actor in like legitimate things like Fargo, where he's in Coen Brothers material. He did his own film like Trees Lounge that I watched years ago, but I have not watched in ages. But man, you scroll through his IMDb, and he's just in everything. So I always forget that he's the voice in Monsters Inc. who plays the bad guy Randall there. So he does a ton of voice work, and lots of people do. But the show I've never watched on Fox, but it's hilarious to hear Joe Buck plug each week. Crapopolis. So I guess he's done a couple episodes of that in old Crapopolis, which I believe the premise is it's an ancient Greek city that's just run like crap. I don't know. Follows a flawed family of humans, gods, and monsters that tries to run one of the world's first cities without killing each other. Yeah, I think I nailed it there. But yeah, he's got so much stuff. 179 roles on his acting docket on IMDb there. So yeah, dude's in absolutely everything. And he needs to be protected at all costs. Which brings us to our main event for today. We need to figure out essentially a celebrity Steve security task force that can be assigned to protect Steve Buscemi at all times. And one of the unique things about this is as I was putting this thing together here, it seems like this is a 40 plus. So everyone on this list is over the age of 40. um, is included on this list, which is alarming to me because I feel like our Steves are aging at an alarming rate. So we don't have as many young, famous Steves as we. And mind you, I will say there were no fictional Steves included here. I certainly considered including Steve Urkel as his own unique Steve. I just don't think that Jaleel White can pull that off forever. I think he just got married a couple weekends ago. So I think he's settling down. I don't think he wants to rehash the Urkel thing every single week. So what we're going to do here, we're going to try to just loosely assign some scores here. I want to try to narrow it down to my top five. My top five enforcers that could be assigned to protect Steve Buscemi at all costs. And he might need 24-hour a day, 365-day a year protection. So you're going to have to work around some of these guys' schedules. That's why I think we need a minimum of 5 people to protect them. And they can't all just be brutes. You might want brutes, but as we go through this thing, I think you might want to see creativity, something like that. You never know. So we'll see what comes in handy here as we go about it. All right, let's get into it. All right. You can see we have the age and the height of everyone here. Getting weights on everyone is a little tricky sometimes, so weights were not included. Yes, Minecraft Steve, another good one. So yes, weight not included on here, but you can kind of, we'll go through kind of who's a little bit more built, who's a little bit daintier here. Steven Tyler, 76-year-old man, 5'10". I mean, he's a good rocker. 5'10's a decent size, but it's 76. We have to remember that Steve Buscemi himself is 66. Let's get his height real quick. Buscemi's height, just so I remember. He's 5'9". So Buscemi's 5'9" and 66. So he could take care of himself to a decent degree, but he also got blindsided. So that's why we need eyes on Buscemi at all times and eyes on what's going on in front of Buscemi at all times of the day. So Steven Tyler at 76 only has a 1-inch height difference on Buscemi. I don't think he's going to do much. I don't think Steven Tyler can do a damn thing for Steve Buscemi. I think he's got to be disqualified, or not disqualified, but I think he's got to go a sub 50 score. I think his rocker dance moves are the only thing that helps him here. I'm going to give him like a 30. All right. So 30. He's not very well built either. I feel like he falls down and gets hurt a bunch, and he's got like emphysema and crap like that. So yeah, sorry, Steven Tyler, not gonna work. All right, moving on. Steve Carell. Now, 25 years ago, like early Daily Show Steve Carell, there's no way I would have even considered him for a second. But he did get pretty jacked up over the last few years. He was working out quite a bit. I don't know if that translates to any real protective skills, but he is also an improv guy. So he's quick on his feet. thinks well. I think he can see the whole field. I think he's built pretty well. He's 5'9", same height as Buscemi. You're really just adding a little bit of mass there. About 5 years of age, or 5 years of youth on that one, because Buscemi 66, Carell 61, 5'9". I think from a ranking standpoint, and feel free to throw your numbers in here as well, I think he's a pretty solid contributor. I think he could hang in like the C range. Some of these we might adjust as we go. It might have to grade on a curve here, so you never know. I think he's like a solid 76. I think you could get by with Carell, mainly just because he's kind of tough looking. All right. Now we get to Stone Cold Steve Austin. Yes. Carter, I too wonder what the average lifespan of Steve's are. Steven Tyler has to help those numbers. That's right. I don't know that anybody's done a thorough, exhaustive search of the all time average age of Steve's, but I hope it's relatively long. I mean, I can think of some guys that have left us too soon, but we won't get into them right now. So yeah, let's focus on the ones that are still with us here. Let's just say the longevity of them is strong. Let's say we all survive past 80. I'm going to give us that. All right, Stone Cold Steve Austin. I used to get him and Goldberg mixed up because I think they're both bald guys that were also wrestlers at some point when I was in junior high, and a lot of people were into that. And that's great. I'm glad that people were into wrestling. It seems like it made them very happy. I applaud the theater of it. Not something I'm super into watching, but honestly, I've never really tried. I will tell you, the kids who were into wrestling when I was growing up, some of them extremely smart, others seemed like their houses were in total disarray and dysfunction at all points in time, and it was just brothers fighting with each other and jumping on each other. Now that I have two boys, I understand that that happens, but yeah, the wrestling people, the wrestling fans I knew, intense growing up, sure. But Stone Cold Steve Austin, Escobar, Steve Zahn, great point. I don't know why Zahn didn't make this list right here. I'm actually happy to throw him in for some other ones because I think Zahn is a pretty strong, like, Morrissey's a reach. He doesn't even really go by that. I was just kind of going to take shots at Morrissey there. So, yeah, before we get all the way down to Morrissey, get Zahn in here. I'll get his height super minute. 8, 5, 7, and get his 8. Zahn is a 56-year-old man who is 5'7", 57. Cool. Good to know for Zahn. A good call out. All right, so Stone Cold Steve Austin, though. Let's see. He's a wrestler. I think those guys fake a lot of stuff from what I understand. I know that word's a little bit weird with some people. I know people don't like one. I don't think they want to admit. Sorry, I think people don't like to admit or acknowledge is what I should say. They've all admitted it to them. I don't think they like to acknowledge that it's fake, but that doesn't mean it's any less physical or physically demanding. So for that reason, I think Stone Cold Steve Austin's a pretty damn solid choice here. 6'2", and he's built like a tank. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It is real to people. I get it. 59. So he's got 7 years he's of youth on Buscemi there at 66. 6'2". I mean, out of the gate, I think he's our strongest contender. I don't know that he's a slam dunk A, but I mean, he's a definite like 85 plus. Got to be at least an 87. Stone Cold Steve Austin, yeah. Strong showing from Stone Cold Steve Austin. I think he's going to be great. I think if you see Stone Cold Steve Austin walking down the street next to Steve Buscemi, you're not going to punch Buscemi. So some of that is what this is about. We just need a deterrent. We need an all-time Buscemi punch deterrent moving forward. This is like a repellent spray. We need Stone Cold Steve Austin, Steve Buscemi attacker repellent spray. And I think it'll work. All right, I think that's a good one. Steve Nash is our next contestant here. Steve Nash. He's Canadian. I don't know the Canadians are all that good at fighting. I mean, I'm sure some UFC guys are from Canada, but Take it back. There's a lot of hockey dudes from Canada, and those dudes love to throw. Okay. I mean, I don't know that their fights are any good, though, in hockey, and I like hockey. They lose some teeth, but the fights are always pretty close range. Ash. I mean, he's definitely 6'2". He looks small on the basketball court, but he's still 6'2". He's young, too, so he's pretty damn spry. I don't know that he could land a real, like, blocker punch the way that I'm hoping Stone Cold Steve Austin could. Like, if you attacked, I'm hoping Stone Cold Steve Austin could still knock you out with a punch or two and then step on your throat. Steve Nash, he might lay a kick on you. I mean, he's got reach, right? He's got to have reach. He's a basketball player. I think he's a solid contender. I think he's going to be low 80s. Maybe high 70s. I think he's going to be a little bit above Carell, mainly due to age. I think I'm going to go like a 79 on. He's not scary when you look at him, but he's just tall. So he'd be taller than Steve Buscemi. That would kind of deter. All right, now moving on to Steven Spielberg. Here we go. This is where the security task force element of this does come into play a little bit because it isn't just walking around. For all intents and purposes, we could have any one of our 5 team members walk around, and we're looking for 5 trained security people to oversee the task force assigned to making sure that Steve Buscemi is protected at all times. So there are a few filmmakers on this list, Steven Spielberg being one of them. Steven Soderbergh farther down the list there. I think those are our 2 big guys that are going to have in-depth camera knowledge. So this is where you need to make a decision as to how much you think high-tech camera equipment is going to play an advantage. And is this anything that you just can't buy off the free market? Because you can't buy muscles and intimidation, but you could buy another director. Spielberg, great man, a lot of great movies, a lot of great stuff, but looking at his measurables at 77, 5'8", I don't think he brings anything to the table here. I think Steven Spielberg, I mean, again, other than like super high tech security, like he could have the entire block rigged with cameras that you didn't even know were there. And he would probably be able to get pretty good access. That's the other thing you have to think about. More than anyone, Spielberg has unlimited access. So his Rolodex is completely full. Everybody's seen Jaws. Everyone loves Jurassic Park. He could get into any political sphere he needed to. He could get in with any government agent he needed to. He could have all the street cameras rewired. These are the guys who have shut down city streets to do one shot. So making a stronger case for himself here. And his measurables just don't add up. So, I mean, I don't see how he gets above a 61. Like, I think that's going to have to be his ceiling. Just because when push comes to shove, he's going to be one of the first guys down or, like, who gets killed. If it's really an all-out brawl and it comes down to a 5-on-5, like, let's say 5 people are trying to attack our beloved Steve Buscemi, it's going to be all hands, and everybody's going to have to throw. And I don't think cameras are going to get us out of that. So I think it's a great protection and security method to employ. High-tech, high-level camera work seems great. I just don't think it's going to come down. I just don't think he's going to make it on this team. Looking at all the other competitors, just don't think it's going to happen. So, unfortunately, Soderbergh at 14. If Spielberg didn't make it, I think Soderbergh's already dead in the water down there, unfortunately. Thank you, Droopy Dog. This is a fun debate. And yes, Henson Spielberg, lots of connection there. All right, let's move on to Steve Young. Ugh. This was a Steve that always hurt to have as a Steve when I was growing up. I mean, live in Cowboys land, Cowboys country, what have you. So Young, he's 62 now. I mean, he's definitely 6'2". I'm sure he's a big dude. If you run into him on the streets, and he's typically wearing those nice suits, at least when I see him. I only see him on whatever program he's on, CBS, This Morning, NFL, whatever's. I don't know if he's an ESPN guy. He might be. I don't know. But whenever I see him, he is wearing a nice suit. So I think you've got that going for you. You know, like Carell and Steve Nash. I think those are toss ups. I think either one of those guys could be in workout clothes at either point in time or at any point in time. Carell was in suits way too much in the office. He's not going to stroll around in a suit unless he's going to an event or got a meeting somewhere. But and maybe Steve Young's in workout clothes all the time too. I don't know. I'm not following him on social. I don't know what Steve Young wears in his day to day. But to me, he's only wearing suits. I'm going to assume he's wearing a suit at all times. That adds a little bit. Former pro athlete adds a little bit. I mean, yeah, he's got to be in the mid 70s just based on that. 62, 6'2". Yeah, I mean, he's got to be a 76 right along with Carell. If Carell warrants mid 70s, which maybe that's too high of a rating there, we'll see as we go on, but he's pretty jacked. All right. Steve Martin. I don't think he stands a shot. Great guy to hang with. I would love to have lunch with Steve Martin every day. That would be incredible. I don't think he has any place on this list of a celebrity Steve security task force to protect Steve Buscemi. I just don't see how it happens. So I think I'm going to go ahead and get rid of him right now. I'm sorry, Steve Martin, you're gone.
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
He's going to be like a 15. So I don't think he's going to be able to creep up. And so already at this point, I can see multiple people that are going to be ahead of him. So yeah, he's just going to be out right now. And I love Steve Martin. Father of the Bride, outstanding. I mean, the earlier stuff, of course. The Jerk was wonderful. 80s all over the place. But 90s Steve Martin is when I got to say he could whack them with the banjo. As the 90s is when my consciousness came about. So I got to see more 90s Martin than anything. So love it. Steve Zahn. Brilliant character actor. His work in That Thing You Do puts him up here strong. His work in You've Got Mail puts him up here pretty strong. Diary of a Wimpy Kid. Big fan of that role as well. And he has been getting more jacked up, too, as time goes on. Or maybe he's just swelling up. Saving Silverman, too. A movie forgotten to time. Haven't watched it in like 25 years. It might be awful, but I remember it being outstanding at the time. Jason Biggs just dragged it down. Anyway, Don. So good in everything he's in. He really adds that pop. But he's also in a lot of bad movies, too, because people would just cast him in. Steve Zahn, 56, 5'7". A real average guy. 56. Got 10 years of youth on Buscemi there. 5'7", 2 inches shorter than Buscemi. Steve Zahn. I don't see how he gets above like a mid-50s. Man, yeah, I don't think he brings much to the table at all, honestly. Even his physical, like, he's not that physically intimidating. He's just not. So I'm going to say like a 55. Yeah, I think even Spielberg brings more to the table than Zahn on this one, unfortunately. Sorry, Steve Zahn, and I love you. But Steve Zahn, I think that already means...
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
Yeah. I don't think he's going to make it. I'm sorry. All right, this one's probably going to be pretty damn fast. Steve Miller.
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
That guy brings nothing to the table, all right? He is probably about an 8. I do not care for Steve Miller's music more than maybe once every decade. I'll hear a track and be like, all right, that was cool. I think I just heard way too much of it growing up. Way too much. So I'm over Steve Miller. He's 80 years old. So even at 6'3", I don't know what an 80-year-old Steve Miller is going to do on our Celebrity Steve Security Task Force here. So he's gone. He's out of here. Already gone. All right. Now, Steve Smith. This is a pick right here. So Steve Smith, this is from the Carolina Panthers. There's multiple Steve Smiths. This is the 45-year-old, 5'9", relatively short wide receiver, but still a great all-around athlete and a real hustle player. This guy earned it. Steve Smith at 45, 5'9". I didn't grab people's weight, but it's fair to assume that he's in pretty damn good shape and he's pretty effing built. So at 45, 5'9", I think he is right up there with Stone Cold Steve Austin. Like, he does way more for me than Steve Nash, way more than Steve Young. No offense. Steve Young is a quarterback. Steve Smith had to go out there and fight people. Steve Young probably took some hits every now and then, but he didn't have to go up and get a ball against better DBs out there. He was the tiny guy. I mean, I think he's got to be up there in like 85. Yeah, exactly. Like I said, Stone Cold Steve Austin's the only one I worry about, but I kind of agree. I think in a street fight, I think Steve Smith's even above Stone Cold. Yeah, I think Steve Smith might be in the 90s here. He may. I'm going nine. Yeah, based on the chat. Thank you, Ruben Arredondo. Stop the insanity, please. Keep making the case. Strange Wilderness. Right? This video is more controversial than the pizza draft toppings video. Sorry, I'm a little late on the chat. I'll try to keep up on it. But Steve Smith, yeah, I think he's got to be in the 90s. I'm going. I mean, I can't say there's a perfect candidate, but I'm going to say he's a 95. I think it's going to be tough. I think it's going to be real tough. Oh, there he goes. He just punched me in the face. So I think he's our top candidate so far there. He's great. Everybody else, get the hell out. All right, moving on to this next one. Steve Perry, 75 years old. Sang for Journey for a long time. I don't even think he's singing anymore. I think he gave up. I don't know if he's walking around San Francisco or what he does out there. I know my buddies Ben and Skin always used to tell a story about how he sang like a decade ago at a World Series game. Might even be 12 years. So unfortunately, at 75 years old and 5'7" and never really having much muscle on him at all.
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
Right, you are gone. So Steve Perry, I'm going to give him like a 6. He's right there with Steve Miller. I mean, I guess I'll give him a 9 because he's 75, but he's got nothing. All right. And if you're just now joining us, which thank you for joining us here, this is a Steve Buscemi protection video. So we're here to protect our beloved national treasure, Steve Buscemi, and we are looking for the strongest of the Steves. We're going to be taking the top 5 Steves here, and they will be assigned to assemble a celebrity task force of all Steves to ensure 24/7, 365-day-a-year protection for Mr. Buscemi. And I only pulled one piece of audio for him. I'm sorry, and it's this.
I mean, if you don't like spaghetti and meatballs, why don't you get the hell out?
And the same can be said for Steve Buscemi. If you don't like Steve Buscemi, you can get the hell out. All right, moving on to Gutenberg. All right. My familiarity with Gutenberg is limited. I'm very aware that he was in the Police Academy films. I'm ashamed to admit that I think I'm most familiar with him from a movie my little sister made me watch a lot called It Takes Two, that I believe starred Steve Gutenberg and Kirstie Alley. And it was an Olsen twins joint where it was essentially The Parent Trap, I'm pretty sure. Maybe they were both, I can't even remember how it worked out. Yeah, no. It was essentially The Parent Trap. What am I saying? Yes, it was a Parent Trap ripoff, 100%. And that's where I'm most familiar with Gutenberg. There's a giant food fight in it. Then after that, I don't know that I ever sat down and watched much more Gutenberg material. So, I know he was in one of those 3 Men and a Baby films. We covered that on the Selleck episode last week. What happened to Tom Selleck's mustache, what happened to Tom Selleck's ranch, and then what's going on with the top 10 mustaches in the world. But I don't think Gutenberg brings much to the table in security and protection. And the Police Academy, does he have contacts inside of police forces across America? He might be a beloved figure, or maybe not. Maybe they hate him. If you're a cop and you're out there watching or listening here, text in, chat in. Do police like the Police Academy movies? And are they fans of Steve Gutenberg? Because I don't know. Either way, I don't think that's going to help them much when push comes to shove. I think that'll help them a little bit when it comes to calling the police, maybe getting some extra security details or running some checks, like if some shady guys are coming by. But if he's ever assigned to like, hey, Steve, you're on duty with Buscemi today. They're essentially the same age. Gutenberg's a little bit taller. and I think he's kind of a wuss. Based on everything I know about him, I think Gutenberg, a little bit of a wuss. So I'm going to put him in like right around the Steve Zahn range. Like a 54, 55. He doesn't do much for me. Sorry, Gutenberg. All right, now, Steve effing Harvey. Whew. This one's tough because he's old or older. I mean, he's 67. So that's the same age as Buscemi, essentially. Buscemi coming in at 66. Buscemi is 5'9". So we got Steve Harvey, 67, 6'1". Got about 4 inches on Buscemi. Got that going for him. Age, he doesn't have much going for him. But I also feel like Harvey's roughed some dudes up before. I don't know why. I just feel like he was, of all the comedians out there, it depends on his crew, depending on who he was rolling with on a given night. But Steve Harvey kind of has that look like the guy that would happily like play it like he's really cool with you and really nice, and then say some of the most intimidating stuff, just real cool. And you know that he means absolute serious business. So I feel like he's that kind of a street stuff almost, where like he's laughing and smiling the whole time. But yeah, I did consider Stephen Jones on here. I said Stephen Jones did not make the list, unfortunately. I considered him. And then, yeah, Sting didn't make it either. Sting did not make it. So Steve Harvey, I feel like he brings a lot to the table. I feel like he's going to be a high 60s, low 70s guy. I think I'm going to give him a 69, and I'm not being cheeky there. I think that's what he warrants. I think he's a very high 60, low 70s kind of player when you're put together an all Steve celebrity security task force to ensure the protection of Steve Buscemi. All right, now on to Soderbergh. Spielberg didn't make it, so
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
That's right. Ain't nothing I can do for you, Soderbergh. I think if Spielberg came in the 60s, Sodi, who I love the Ocean's 11 franchise. I love all the Ocean's films. That's great stuff. I'm sorry, Sodi. I can't give you this one. Love Traffic as well. I think I'm going to put you down in like the 42. So, being good with cameras is great. Having a great guerrilla camera setup operation where you don't do a ton of lighting is awesome. Great. But sorry, Steven Soderbergh. Not going to make it here. All right. Steve Kerr, 63, 8 years old. Is Steve Kerr tough? I don't know much. I mean, I know he played on the Bulls back in the day. I know he's a coach now. I don't know much about Steve Kerr's off the court life. I don't know if he's tough or if he's from like some real sheltered high end community growing up or something like that. Like, has he ever realistically been in a fight, or has he been in a lot of country clubs? That's what I'm grappling with here, because he is a pro athlete. So he gets the pro athlete bump, similar to like Steve Young. Steve Young made his way into the 60s. Granted, he played a far more physical, or made his way into the 70s. Granted, plays a far more physical sport. Steve Kerr, tall, 6'3", one of our tallest guys on here. 6'3", 6'4". Yeah, 6'4" is the tallest one we have. 6'3" is where we're at right now with Kerr. One of the taller cats on the list. Don't think he's that tough, unfortunately. I think he might be kind of a wuss. And I don't know this for sure, but I think he's a wuss. So I'm going to say Steve Kerr, even though he gets the pro athlete bump, I think he's going to have like a low 70, like 74. I think he might come in just a little bit below Steve Young on this one. So I think we're going to go 74 for Steve Kerr. It's tough. Tough out there. All right, now on to a very controversial figure here. Steven Seagal. I don't know that Steven Seagal was ever actually good at martial arts. I think he might have started all those rumors that he was good, and then he just moved his hands around just kind of did this when people attacked him and it was well choreographed. So I don't know that he was ever any good. I also don't know if he's allowed back in the country. So I think Steven Seagal might be overseas in like Russia or Kazakhstan or some weird place where he's just playing blues guitar. I think he loves the blues. I think he does that. And I think he's got a big old beard. But don't I don't know what he's got left in the tank. Now, I'm willing to forgive all of that. I'm willing to say, all right, Steven, let's say you want to come back to America. Let's say it. Let's say we did not throw you out or you did not leave, whatever the case. Would he bring anything to the table? He's our tallest guy, 6'4", 72 years old. 6'4", 72 years old. I feel like he's got to get into the 80s just because he was in martial arts movies, but he's 72 years old. I don't feel good about realistically, I have a hard time believing that Steven Seagal is going to do anything in a fight if Steve Buscemi is getting hurt. And that's it. I think that's what it comes down to. We also have to consider motivation. We're going to pay. We'll pay well. And I think Seagal is probably a money whore at this point in his life. I don't know that for sure. I don't know. I don't think anybody's offering him much money. But is he really willing to go get into a fight for money or Steve Buscemi? I think he's willing to get into a fight for himself or his own ego or to remain in the cast of Executive Decision for more than 8 minutes. Will O'Connell says he'd get himself back into shape. That's true. Would Seagal get himself back into shape for this job to protect Steve Buscemi? 72, 6'4". You know, I think let's be optimistic here. Let's say Seagal gets himself back in shape. It's like he's in Hard to Kill again. He's out there kicking ass. And let's just say that he's not going to just play blues music and eat a bunch of pork rinds all day. And then he's back training every day. Maybe, just maybe, he'd be able to protect Steve Buscemi with some of these other guys. Ow. All right. I'll put him in the 80s. I think I'm going to put him at 84. I don't know if that's going to be good enough for top 5, but he's not definitely gone. I don't know yet. I'm looking at the numbers. I think as of now, he's in top 5. So I think as of now, he's on your Celebrity Steve Security Task Force. And we're getting down to the bare bones here. So, oh, man. All right. Stephen Root, character actor, beloved man. You might know him as Milton from Office Space. Seagal is 73. Oh, let me check my numbers here. I apologize. I was just rapid fire Googling here. Let me hit my Seagal age check here. Seagal age. Oh, it hasn't updated. Well, I'll have to look. But I'm showing him, Amber Crawford, I love you. I'm showing him as April 10, 1952. So maybe just celebrated just my opinion on his number. Gotcha, on his scoring. Sorry, he's a 72. I apologize. That's the problem. I've got too many numeric values on there. Sorry. I agree. 72 is a solid rating. Thank you. Put your ratings in here as much as you want. I love that. I think 72 might be solid for Seagal as well. I'm giving it to Will on the optimism there at 84. But I agree. He may be a 70 based on limitations to his ability to enter the country legally. So I am giving him the benefit of the doubt that he recommits himself to the United States of America, gets in shape, and gives a crap. So let's see. All right, moving on. Stephen Root. You know him as Milton from Office Space. He's also the voice of Bill Dauterive in King of the Hill. He's in a bajillion things. He plays a great rich old guy. Anytime he's like the rich old boss and stuff, like News Radio, I think he's the boss in that show. He does it in other stuff, like the movie The Lady Killers. I think like the casino boss there. He's got that good elder statesman figure when he gets to play that. So great dude. I would love to have a beer with him. I don't know. Oh, is he in Barry? That's one I'm way behind on, and I'm so bad. I need to watch Barry. I love the Fonz and Henry Winkler, and I love oh god, why can't it? Main dudes. Oh, I love Barry, the man who plays Barry. It's not Sedaris. Brain just froze. I've got too many Steve names in front of me. Put it in the chat for me so I don't feel like an idiot, so I don't have to go search. But I love Stephen Root to Pete. I don't think he brings much to the table here. He's got to be a sub 50 player. He does look intimidating. Got to be a sub 50 guy. Bill Hader is the name I was looking for. Thank you, chat. Let's see. So Stephen Root, sub 50. I think he's got to be like a 40. I mean, he does more than Gutenberg, though. I mean, yeah, 55. Or no, he's older. No, he's lower than Gutenberg. Yeah, he's got to be like a 48. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, Stephen Root. I love you, but
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
he must not like spaghetti and meatballs.
I mean, if you don't like spaghetti and meatballs, why don't you get the hell out?
Right, Buscemi wants you gone. All right, on to Colbert. I love Colbert. Seems like a pacifist, though. I don't think Colbert's going to fight for anyone at any point in time. I think he would try to debate or talk his way out of something, maybe do a funny little number, but I don't think he's going to be any good on a celebrity security task force. I don't think he's going to protect Buscemi at all. He's got 2 inches on Buscemi, and he's 6 years younger, so that's nice. But he's never been a pro athlete. He's an improv guy like Carell, but never got jacked up. So he doesn't have any of the measurables that Carell has, even though he's slightly taller and he's, he's 1 year younger. He never got jacked up. And I know weight's not on here. Colbert just isn't. I said, he seems like a pacifist guy. So I don't think he's good. I don't think he's a good fit here. I think he's like I think he's right in the Gutenberg range, maybe like a 55. Yeah. I think he's right around Gutenberg levels here. Or sorry, Steve Zahn, Steve Gutenberg. I think Colbert's right in that realm. Middle of the pack. Just another average dude. Not going to help you much. Okay. This one's interesting. Stephen Baldwin. Oh, yeah, sorry. Stephen Colbert.
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
Nothing I can do for you, Colbert. Okay. Sorry about that. Baldwin. This one's interesting because I think he's in the Bieber sphere now, if I'm not mistaken. I think his daughter is with Bieber, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. I'm bad at celebrity gossip sometimes, but I think Stephen Baldwin is in the Bieber sphere. I also think Stephen Baldwin has maybe like a fake religion, or sorry, not a fake religion, but like his own church that he started. So he's got maybe like a congregation of people that could be like other eyes and ears for him. He's got Bieber, he's got the eyes and the ears. And one thing that's always struck me about him that I don't know is true. He seems unhinged, like most Baldwins. I mean, his brother did kill someone. Unintentionally, of course, but they do have a death on the record. Blood on their hands, so to speak. So he feels kind of unhinged, and he may not be. He might be a totally normal, well-grounded dude or well-rounded, perfectly down-to-earth guy. But he seems unhinged to the point where, like, if you saw him on the street, remember he's 58 years old and he's 5'10". If I saw him on the street, I might be worried to interact with him. He also does seem aggressive. So unlike Colbert or some of these other guys, Baldwin does seem like he'd get in your face. Just like his brother Alec. I think Alec has no problem getting in people's faces. I certainly remember him yelling at his daughter one time years ago. And Baldwin, and I think he was kind of not necessarily jacked up like strong, but he was a thick dude. Like he's got more muscle on him for sure than Colbert or something like that. Even though their heights are relatively similar, so I'm gonna put him in like a mid-60s range, like a 64. I don't think that's gonna be high enough to get him into the top five though. So Stephen Baldwin,
You're gone. Fired. Out of here. Ain't nothing I can do for you.
tough. Okay, now to our final contestant, competitor, what have you. This name does not look familiar to you. I apologize. You might know Steve Wilkos as the security guard for Jerry Springer. Anytime a chant would get unleashed, said Steve, 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 Steve. That was for the one Steve Wilkos, the big, bald, intimidating man. I believe he even had an appearance in Austin Powers 2, The Spy Who Shagged Me, if I'm not mistaken. I think that's where they redo the Jerry Springer bit, or recreated Jerry Springer show for a bit. Then somehow or another, this security guard got his own TV show on CW that aired for years, and it was basically just like Maury and Jerry Springer, but more centered around like turning kids' lives around or people that are making the bad decision. Because he's Steve Wilkos. And I think maybe he was a former police officer, former prison guard, something like that. So Steve Wilkos brings a hell of a lot to the table here. He's 60 years old, but he's one of our tallest dudes, and he's the only one who's legitimately worked in security before. So he's worked professional security, he's protected celebrities, he's recognizable, he's got his own show, or he did. He's bald, that adds to your intimidation factor right there. Big 6'3" bald dude who can like cross his arms and people know his face and how intimidating he is. Yeah, Amber, Wilkos had his own show, exactly. Dude had his own show. I mean, I hate to do this to Steve Smith, but Wilkos, he might be. Y'all weigh in before I give him a number. Would Steve Smith just tear up Wilkos in a fight? Because I feel like I'm going to put Wilkos at like 95 right with Steve Smith. Because I feel like they bring about equal to the table. Steve Smith is so much younger, though, at 45. I feel like he might just rip him to shreds. But I think Wilkos was a prison guard. Let me do some quick back research. Steve Wilkos, Wikipedia. We're going to get right down to the heart of it. Oh, he had a car wreck. I can see that in his personal life here. No, Chicago Police Department. So yeah, Wilkos was a member of the Chicago PD in 1990, where he was stationed at various times in the Logan Square, Humboldt Park, and West Side neighborhood. So, all right, he's been on a police force. Smith played in the NFL, 15 years younger. Police dude. He's definitely got some tactics for security. I think for this specific job that we're looking for Steve Buscemi's, yeah, Alley Cat versus Pitbull, I think Smith might edge him out due to age. Yeah, that's what's tricky is like I think the edge might go to Steve Smith here due to age. I think from a training standpoint, these guys are going to be like a 1A, 1B. Like if Steve Wilkos trained Steve Smith on everything he learned from the academy, he's like, hey, here's how you take down a perp. Here's how, if somebody's approaching us and they're trying to punch Mr. Buscemi in the face, here's what you do to disarm them immediately. I think they're going to be an unstoppable duo. In fact, I would love to see that buddy cop movie. If you give me the two Steves, Wilkos and Smiths, or Wilkos and Steve Smith there starring together in a buddy cop comedy to protect Steve Buscemi called I Think You Should Steve, and it's all three of them together. It's Buscemi, Steve Smith, and Steve Wilkos. I think we got a hit on our hands here. So I'm going to give Steve Smith the edge at 95. I'm going to go 94 for Wilkos. So let's rack them up here. And after 5, I think this is our dividing line. Get a big old thick old line there. All right. There it is. These are the strongest of the Steves. This is the Celebrity Steve Security Task Force that will now be tasked, enlisted by me to protect Steve Buscemi at all costs. So, after we've gone through here and we've evaluated each one of these competitors, we found that Steve Smith, former NFL player and wide receiver, is probably our number one guy. I think he's going to be our boss, maybe not the boss, but he is our head enforcer for Steve Buscemi protection here. He's the guy that when all the gloves are off, we need Steve Smith to land a punch and to really take down the biggest, baddest MFer that's trying to attack Steve Buscemi. After him, we've got a bald beauty, Steve Wilkos. Gonna kick your ass, all right? And that bald beauty used to have his own show. He was a member of the Chicago Police Department, also worked for Jerry Springer. So this guy's got real deal academy training here. Him and Steve Smith working together, gonna be outstanding. Next, Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Stone Cold, even though he's a wrestler, pretty jacked up dude. I wouldn't want to tussle with him in the streets. I forget what he wore. I don't know if he was the one who wore like a little vest. I feel like either him or Goldberg had a cute little like leather vest thing that they wore with that little underwear stuff. Real weird look. Definitely has a real big leather daddy vibe as opposed to a real tough enforcer vibe. But I think if he's wearing that, great. If not, I think it's still enforceable. I mean, people might hold up those posters that say Austin 316. I feel like that was a thing. That might be blaspheming. I don't know. Doesn't bother me any. So yeah, Stone Cold Steve Austin, our next one on the list there. He came in with a B rating of an 87. So the only two guys that got an A rating for us here, leather vest and undies for sure. Thank you, Amber. Yeah, leather vest and undies is the imagery I have associated with Stone Cold Steve Austin. And wow, I mean, that does take, like, you talk about being confident. That's one thing. Like, that is confidence to be so comfortable with your body and so committed to the art form that you have no problem wearing a leather vest and tight little Speedo underwear to roll around out there in the ring with other dudes. That's confidence. I am jealous. All right. Steven Seagal is our next man here. He somehow made it in, really based on us assuming a lot. We're making a lot of assumptions here that he can get back into the country. That's a big hurdle he has to clear. I mean, like, I think he disavowed America completely. I don't know. Like, I think he might have renounced his citizenship. I don't know. We got to get him back into the country. We got to get him training. Yeah, and I think they should all wear that, and I think you should, Steve, too. It's a great hit film. I think Seagal gets back in his playing day shape, which may be impossible at 72. Like, I don't think Arnold can get back in shape. Seagal, if he hits the cardio, maybe. So he's going to have to hit the cardio hard. I think either way, he can maybe lay a forearm shiver on somebody and at least be an imposing presence. He is our tallest guy on the list. He's 6'4". So that's how he made it in here to the Celebrity Steve Security Task Force. 6'4", 72. We made a lot of assumptions that he's going to be able to get back into the country and that he's going to be able to exercise and work out a little more. Then finally, Steve Nash here. Steve Nash barely got on this list, and I think it was pretty much just because he's 50 years old. So I think that's what did in Carell and Young. They got dinged a little bit for their age. The Steve Nash, tall guy, 62, Canadian is the thing I worry about. I know Canadian hockey guys fight. I know that. I just don't know. I don't know if he's going to make it in the tough city streets of New York. I know he was here in Dallas, and he was in, where did he play, for the Phoenix Suns for a while? I mean, he was out there, but Canada, Phoenix, and Dallas, I don't know. So, I mean, I think he's kind of our weakest link as I go through there. And that's tough because Seagal's kind of a weak link as well. A weak link, sorry. The Smith, Wilkos, and Stone Cold Steve Austin, I think they're really doing the bulk of the work on protecting Steve Buscemi moving forward. And then we can establish an alternates crew here. So we go down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're dropping a little border guy on top of this guy here. We'll call these our alternates here. Carell, Young, Kerr, Harvey, and Baldwin. I think that's a good B squad. I think for holidays, I think, if you got to do a 2-week dry dock over Christmas, if you can bring in Steve Carell, Steve Young, Steve Kerr, Steve Harvey, and Stephen Baldwin, I think you got a good backup security unit there. I think you can feel comfortable going out, doing a little Christmas shopping, just feeling protected. I mean, obviously, you would love to have Steve Smith. Like, you're not going to go into the dangerous back alleys if you don't have Steve Smith with you. You're not going to do any kind of international travel, no. But I think you got a good second line there with Carell, Young, Kerr, Harvey, and Baldwin. All right, now let's look at this third line if we're playing hockey terms here. Guy. Boom. All right. All right, our third line is pretty weak. So let's say there's been a massive illness that's taken down most of the team. Our A team and our B team are both down. It's now up to our C tier of guys to assemble here. It's going to be down to Spielberg, Steve Zahn, Stephen Colbert, Steve Gutenberg, and Stephen Root to protect our mighty king, America's sweetheart, Steve Buscemi. I mean, it's a decent team. At least Spielberg and Soderbergh are separated. I don't know that those two filmmakers would probably just gang up and just talk about movies the whole time and start planning different stuff. What I do see happening here is maybe a beautiful Steve Zahn, Steven Spielberg relationship that blooms. And then if you get Stephen Root in there as well, I think you got a great film there. I think they cut out Gutenberg, and then I think Colbert just has to entertain them at night. I think how that dynamic might work. And I'm assuming they all have to live in the same house a la Big Brother. So finally, the D team down here. Really, really tough stuff. Whoops, sorry. The D team here. It's tough. It's Soderbergh. Thankfully, like I said, separated from Spielberg, so that's good. Then you get Steven Tyler. He's just going to, wow! He's going to do his dumb little Steven Tyler stuff everywhere. He'll do his little dances and he'll have his scarves and he'll probably try to, I don't know, pick up young women still. Who knows? So I think that's going to be a beating for everyone in there. Actually, I take it. This is going to be a total beating for Steven Soderbergh and Steve Martin to have to put up Steven Tyler, Steve Perry, and Steve Miller. Oh, gosh. That sounds just awful. They're not going to do crap to protect Buscemi. I think they're just going to talk classic rock the whole time. Tyler, Perry, and Miller are just going to talk about how great it was back in the old days. And Steve Martin will play along with that a little bit. But, I mean, he's going to probably relate more to Steven Soderbergh. They'll probably hang out a little bit more. So I think that's how it's going to shake out here once they're all living in the same house, is that you'll see those kind of dividing lines occur. Soderbergh, Martin kind of up, and then you'll have another little clique of Tyler, Perry, Miller there. So, yeah, that wraps us up. I think we've done a lot of great work here today, which brings me to my final point. Just remember, as old Steve Buscemi said here.
I mean, if you don't like spaghetti and meatballs, why don't you get the hell out?